New Zealand officially has a new unicorn company. Halter has officially hit a 1 billion New Zealand dollar valuation off the back of its latest funding round of $165 million, led by the San Francisco-based VC firm Bond. I hope by now you've seen my full deep dive episode on Halter. The team gave me incredible access to not only the founder and CEO Craig Piggott, the president Andrew Fraser, but also to one of their customers. They let me go on a ranch in Crook, Colorado to film the Halter collars up close on cattle. That episode tells you everything you need to know about what the company does and where it plans to go next. But as I was producing this episode, the team gave me a heads up that some big news and big numbers were coming. So I feel very lucky to have been one of the first people outside the company to know about this raise and this incredible fresh valuation. They gave me another opportunity to interview Craig off the back of the announcement. So I'm in New York, he was back home in Auckland in New Zealand. We filmed it via Zoom. This interview really focuses on the funding round itself, what it effectively allows Halter to do, and demand from investors. You'll notice in this interview that Craig is very relaxed about the whole thing. His mind is still in the mission, but I hope that this interview was at least a chance for him to reflect and celebrate and for you to feel like you've been on the journey with him. So here's Craig. Hope you enjoy.
Hello, how are we doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Whereabouts in the US are you?
I am in New York, so you're probably going to hear some traffic sounds and some beeps in the middle of this. Where are you? Are you in Auckland? Are you back home?
Yes, yeah, we're back. Been in Auckland for a couple of weeks, and never more than a few days away from being back on a plane. But
yeah, I bet. Should we jump into it?
cool, let's do it.
Congratulations. It is absolutely insane. A US $1 billion valuation. You're a unicorn.
Yeah, thank you. I think we don't, like broadly speaking, we haven't spent much time thinking about that compared to broadly just getting the round closed and what that means for, the next chapter for Halter in terms of our kind of customers and farmers and ranchers and what we can do with that.
Okay, take me back to the beginning of the raise. Series D, so you've obviously been here and done this before, but what was the thinking specifically behind this one? You told me before that you want to expand into new markets. Was that the driving force?
Yeah, I think obviously when you're an early stage startup, you're always raising money because you don't have revenue and that's your really only choice. And so I think for us, it's become more of a strategic question around, okay, well, if we are going to raise, then what's that for? And so, and probably in summary, for us, that's like, we can be a bit more ambitious, we can move a bit faster, we're able to scale out our engineering teams and R&D teams and just hopefully have more impact on the industry and help our customers more. And so I think that's really that was the why. That's exactly what we'll use the capital for. And we'll keep expanding through, New Zealand, Australia, and the US. We're still focused on those markets at the moment, but just means like the teams that serve our customers can grow and our engineering teams and R&D teams and stuff can grow as well.
I'm interested in who you raised from this time around. Bond Capital, San Francisco-based investment firm, also New View, they were new to the party, Bessemer, DCVC, all in the mix too. I know they were also Rocket Lab early investors, but why did you want Bond Cap to lead this one? Did they come to you?
Bond are like an awesome firm, obviously like a global kind of growth stage firm. So I think we've been pretty fortunate through the journey of Halter to always get to work with like awesome partners in terms of investors. That's true this time around. It has been true in the past, and so that's whenever we go out to raise capital or think about whether we would raise additional investment. The main thing is like, okay, well, who from? Who do we want to work with? Who do we think gets behind the mission and wants to kind of build Halter into a global company that can have like huge impact on such an important industry. And so, through the process, we were talking to a bunch of different firms from across New Zealand, Australia, and the US. And Bond, we were just excited for I guess, excited about for a lot of reasons.
I mean, look at the companies that they've raised for in the past: Stripe, Meta, Block. It's absolutely insane. Have you taken a moment to think about the companies that you're alongside now? Because it looks like you haven't.
Yeah. To be honest, it's not really our style, and I think we broadly we keep our heads down, and we just try to focus on building, serving our customers and farmers. And I think if you get that bit right, the kind of rest takes care of itself in a way. And I don't think that's going to change. I think we feel lucky every day to kind of serve farmers and ranchers, and it is just such an important industry. And if we can lift the productivity of land and make the land more efficient, like that is one of the world's kind of biggest and most important problems. And I think that's why we get out of bed in the morning, and that's why we're excited. And we view these rounds. You don't start a company to raise money, right? Like they purely are. They enable the bigger picture. And so I think you never want to kind of get that the wrong way around. So yeah, it'll be exciting, for the next week. The team will be excited, and I'm sure. And but in the long run, it's another step in the journey towards the mission.
Yeah, I mean, it's effectively just fuel in the tank to keep driving on the mission that you're already on. But there's also pressure that comes with it too, right? Not just from existing partners, but from the new ones that you've brought on and got money from too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, that's probably just aligned with our own expectations anyway, in terms of what we want to achieve in the long run. So, I think that's, you want everybody aligned, whether it's people you're hiring, investors, board, etc. And we're all pretty aligned on what we want to do long term with Halter.
Just quickly on figures, was the 165 mil New Zealand, US 100 mil exactly what you asked for, or was it oversubscribed or a bit less than what you needed?
It was oversubscribed, so it ended up being slightly more than we like initially were aiming for. And I guess that is like, it was a strong round. We were like, the process of raising money is really just a reflection of all the hard work you've done in the lead up to that. Like, yes, you want to make sure you pitch the business well, and you do a good job through the process, but broadly it's like, it's all the work that's gone in for the years prior. And I think that's when you get that right, then these rounds or a fundraising like this is the result of that. So, one thing actually that stood out, which was really cool this time around, was obviously the customer base is a lot bigger now. And so customers feature just like more heavily than they ever have when we were, say, raising a seed or a Series A. And that was like amazing, like seeing how excited Bond and all the investors got, like getting off the phone with customers and hearing the stories about what they've done with their farm and how they've been more productive and how it's changed their life. And then, for them, for the investors to start thinking about, like, holy shit, what about if we can multiply that across thousands of farmers and look at the impact globally, and you can kind of see, that's when you've got alignment on, like, all right, this is what we're trying to achieve, and they'll be good partners long term.
So you didn't even really have to pitch the investors; you just threw customers on the phone and were like, they'll do it.
Yeah, like genuinely, customers were a huge part of the process. And there were many times where, like, I would try and explain concepts, and then they get off the phone with the customer and they look about 5 times as excited. And I'm like, all right, well, we should just do that earlier next time. So I think it's all, they want to hear it from a lot of different angles.
That's kind of an interesting insight, though, isn't it? The fact that these venture investment firms, they didn't just take your word for it. They actually wanted to hear from your customers in the due diligence process, not just read your IM.
Yeah, I think, these are big decisions, and you want any partner, I guess, that you're going to work with to put in the work and really understand the business. I think that's only a good sign, and it only probably sets up for a better relationship long term. So, yeah, they'll. I think these processes aren't it's wrong to think about them as like a big sales pitch. Like, you're not trying to really just like sell these people. You are trying to be very authentic and very real. And they're good at scaling businesses. You named a bunch of other names, like, so they know what that takes. And if you just turn up and tell them all, paint this rosy picture that's like not accurate, then they're just going to see through that. So I think they're built on trust, right? Like any good relationship. And so, yeah, I think that's like a cool spot to be in, where you've got all these like very strong components of the business, whether it's customers, whether it's like impact, whether it's the importance of the problem to society. And then an investor like Bond can come in and also help you with like, all right, how do we kind of scale the next step, and how do we solve this operational challenge, things like that.
Now that you've done a number of these rounds, A, do they get any easier? And B, what would your advice be to any entrepreneur going into this for the first time, pre-seed, seed, or Series A?
Yeah, I think do they get easier? I don't think so. I think they just change. So it's just very different raising a seed or a Series A compared to a Series D. Like the most obvious point probably most people touch on is like in the early rounds, it's a lot more storytelling. In the later rounds, it's a lot more like data-driven and metrics-driven, as like a broad generalization. So I think they change. The main advice I'd have to like any founder, if they were going through these phases, is like all the work happens prior to the round, really. And if you just put all 90% or 99% of your effort into that, like being as prepared as you can by building a great business, then the round itself is actually quite a fun process. It's only when you've left things to chance, or you've kind of introduced risk to the round because you haven't solved that up front, where it starts to get tricky and kind of the rubber meets the road. So, and I think that's, again, aligned with like what we want to do with Halter long term anyway. Like we're trying to build a good business, obviously. We think it's a worthy mission. The problems are important. And so every time we're trying to launch a new market or, expand the product, it's because that's what we want to do with the business. And ultimately, I think investors want to back good businesses. They don't want you to just do what they say or like try and fit into a mold they have. They're actually attracted to like, a good business. So, yeah, I hope that's like not too abstract, but.
No, that's good advice. Is there perhaps any advice on picking who you raise with?
Yeah. There's like an old saying, which is the cheapest thing an investor gives you is their money. That's like that's easy to say when you've got multiple options, right? For a lot of people, they won't. They'll may just have one option, and that's fine as well. That's better than none. So, and ultimately, you're only going to pick one. I think when I left Rocket Lab and we started Halter, and Peter Beck, who was like, a friend and a mentor and super instrumental in helping us to like get Halter off the ground. He was always like kind of painting the long-term picture here. Like we're now 9 years in, right? So like who we first took capital from, like I'm still speaking to them weekly or monthly. Like, so it is such a long journey. And if you can't work with those people well, then that's a bigger problem than the money they gave you in the first place. So they are truly partners to the business. So yeah, I think that's how you have to think about whenever you take money from or raise money from investors.
You told me that the plan is to grow Halter's employee count from 200 to 400 in the next about year, and that you plan to obviously expand in the US while also increasing your market share and going deeper on New Zealand and also Australia. How much runway does this extra 165 mil New Zealand dollars afford Halter?
Yeah, I think we're pretty lucky in the sense like we're in a very strong financial spot prior to the round, off the back of this round, and I think that's that is just like if you keep focusing on the things that matter, you keep solving problems that matter, then that tends to just be true. I don't want to sound too naive, but that's at least been the case for us for a wee while now. So I think we will continue to be in a strong spot. It does mean obviously now with this additional capital, we can be more ambitious, and we can grow faster than you could grow if you were having to scale at the same rate, like alongside a revenue. So that's why we do it. Broadly speaking, it doesn't change the overall financial strength of the business. We just get permission to move a bit faster and like do some more kind of right on the bleeding edge R&D, right? I think that's the cool stuff.
Epic. I know that we didn't quite go deep into figures in our first interview, but this one is obviously more about the numbers. Can you give me some insight on what your revenue looks like, perhaps monthly, annually? Given you're private, there's nothing really out there.
Yeah, it's again, that's not something we talk about like publicly. I think we just try our best, like with all of this, especially in moments like these where there is so many numbers and we raise this capital and this valuation and whatnot. It's like it's so easy for that to get in the way of like why we come to work. And I think that's like when that happens and you start to like manage a company through a spreadsheet and just focus on these numbers, like in a way, I think a lot of things like you can kind of lose the soul and yeah, so it's just not like the main priority for us compared to like, let's get out of bed, let's talk to customers, let's work out like, what are they thinking about, how are they feeling, what's the impact they can have. That's, I think, where we always like just come back to.
Yeah, totally. Just on profitability, and I imagine this is something that the VCs were asking you about as well. Have there been moments in Halter's journey, monthly or on a yearly basis, where you've been profitable if you weren't perhaps growing at the rate that you are?
Yeah, probably similar answer to the last one. Like we are just like, we're in a strong financial spot. So I think that's exciting. And I also think that is the product of like, we haven't focused explicitly on that. We've just focused on like, all right, well, I think actually Nike has a principle that's like, if we do the right thing, we'll make money damn near automatic. Or
Yes, shoe dog, Phil Knight.
such a good like way to think about it. It's like, well, our job is to build something that matters and solve a problem that's important to society. And if you do that, maybe you could frame that as product market fit, but like if you do that well enough, the rest of it will work out. And yes, you need to be operationally excellent. You need to hire the right people. You need to be disciplined, all those things. But those are things which like lots of companies do over and over again. Product market fit or like finding a worthy problem and like dedicating your life to solving it and doing a really good job of it and building a beautiful product. That's like, I think where that's been our focus. And it actually makes me reflect on when we won that Deloitte fastest growing company, New Zealand's fastest growing company award. And it made us think like, wow, there's never really been a moment where we've just been obsessed about like our 3-year growth or like about those numbers. And in a way, like every month we just keep our heads down, keep working on like serving customers and trying to build like cool features and solve hard problems. And it all like kind of compounds almost behind the scenes in a way until that happens. And so these moments, yeah, they're definitely good to like pause and reflect. But I think the focus doesn't change. And I think that's, and when I talk to Peter Rocklab with different people, it's like kind of always a common pattern.
Yeah, totally. And I know you told me before that you never really thought about the company getting to this point, but Peter Beck always said to you that this was a $1 billion idea. I'm sure he knows this news. What did he say? Was he like, none, make it 2 bill, 10 bill?
Yeah, that's a good...
Or was he kind of just part of this behind the scenes?
He was just part of it, I guess. Yeah, broadly, he's like always, never that far away when we're kind of talking through strategy or plans or what we're trying to achieve. So, yeah, I don't think there was quite the moment where you get to like pick up the phone and be like, hey, I haven't spoken to you for a month, but just by the way. But no, I think it's this tricky balance, right? Between, like I remember, yeah, that very first article I think you wrote, and that was the headline, or $1 billion idea, and you're like, maybe, like we're a lot of work to do.
And to be honest, I guess we all kind of said that, right? It was like, good on you, go for it, but figure it out.
Sure. And I think even today, like we still feel like we've got a lot of work to do. Like you ask any of our customers like that have been with us for longer than a day, like it has been a journey. And I think a really exciting and fun way. And we get a lot of things right. We also get some stuff wrong, and there's no blueprint for like a lot of the stuff that we're doing. And we just keep, I don't think that changes tomorrow or for the years ahead. We just want to keep like building a great product. And I do think it is just like the more we are able to do, the more ambitious we become, the more important we realize this industry is, and it covers half the world's landmass, like habitable landmass. So you just, I think you get more and more excited about the impact that you can have, and I think that's the same for the team here and everybody involved, including Pete.
When did you tell your parents?
I think probably they were pretty early on in the these these processes. They kind of span like a few months, right? So even when if you preview it early with people, there's always a lot of caveats. It's like, hey, we've picked the firm, but it's not closed. So I think I would have told them relatively early on. My parents are just so unfazed, right? They're like stoic farmers.
Yeah, that video you guys put out on YouTube recently of your dad just chilling in his stubby. So good.
And I think I kind of love that. I kind of
absolutely love that.
In a way, that's like Halter's style as well. We just like want to work on worthy problems and stay grounded. And I think we try and hire people like that. I think like our culture is that. So I think my parents are like, okay, good work. Can you add this button to the app? Or whatever
well, they're customers at the end of the day, right? They're like, cool, but this doesn't really mean anything for me. But they must be proud. I have no doubt that they've said as such.
Yeah, I think they definitely enjoy being part of the journey and the story. And I haven't asked them. Obviously, it's kind of a strange thing to ask your parents, but I haven't exactly asked, but I'm sure they are. But yeah, I think like it is. They definitely, I think it's been a lot of fun for them. And well, and I'd say the same thing, I guess, like the journey has just it's been hard. It's been extremely exciting at times. It's been like brutally tough at times. But overall it has been a lot of fun. And I think that's true for the team. It's true for like a lot of our customers. I think they feel like they're part of something, they're pioneering the future of agriculture, in the scheme of global ag. Every single one of our customers today is truly like pioneering what this next generation looks like. And so I think probably most people involved would say it's been a journey, and they're just stoked to be on it.
On the hardware, I know that you spent a year on your parents' dairy farm in Matamata building and testing the hardware, and you genuinely didn't know if it was actually going to work out. Can you take us back to that point to help us realize and understand how amazing it is where you are now?
Yeah, I think Halter turned out to be a much more like deeply technical company than we initially anticipated. And that was just probably down to naivety, really. Like if we were slightly wiser and smarter, then we probably could have foreseen a lot of those issues, and maybe we wouldn't have company. I'm glad we did, obviously. Because by the time you look out, you're like, oh, actually, we were quite enough that you can do hard things and you can solve hard problems. And so, but yeah, I think we didn't have a commercial, and doing commercial is a bit of a stretch. We didn't have a farm running like a customer for maybe until like year 4, probably. So like, gone a long time trying to make the product work, and even that first farmer was like really like a partnership farm, and they kind of probably felt like they were helping develop it, to be honest. And so this is outside of my parents' farm, obviously. So yeah, it was across everything. It was across hardware. It was across how do you actually train an animal, and how do you power the devices, and how do you talk to them, and how do you make, how do you produce them en masse and cheap enough, and all that type of stuff. So no, I think it turned out to be a lot harder than we thought. But I also think that's kind of true for like so many startups, right? Like a lot of ideas in the beginning don't seem like good ones because these big problems with them. And then your job as a founder is to work out how to solve those problems. And it just usually comes down to like, well, despite the fact it's hard, like, is it still worth chasing? Are you still passionate about it? Do you think it's an important problem or an important mission to be on? And I think when those things are true, you end up with people that do like just chase it, even when everyone else is like, you're a bit crazy. So
I have a cool story to share with you that I wanted to finish on. When I was flying out of Denver, Colorado, and I was ingesting the footage of both your interview and also that I filmed on the ranch with Andrew that day into my laptop. So on my screen, sitting at the airport, there was you from the interview, and there were pictures of cows with their halter collars on. And this guy sitting next to me, who was roughly our age, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, is that Halter?" And he was this kid from Ohio, and he said he was interested and worked in climate tech, and he really wanted to work for Halter. So the fact that someone in America just recognized you and your product as Halter, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah, it's funny that you do get these very small moments, maybe like that, or when you drive past it, when people join the team and they drive past a Halter farm just in the wild that they didn't know about, or you see someone using it. They've got the app open in Morontal or wherever it is. And those moments are like a little bit surreal. And they are nice moments to kind of pause and reflect. But then, you don't do that for too long, and you kind of just get the laptop back out and get back to work. But it's a funny, the more, I might have even mentioned this in our previous chat, but like the whole, it never gets easier. You just go faster. I think that is just so true. Like there is just, I think when you enjoy what you're doing and it feels like a privilege, and like I love the fact that we do get to serve farmers and ranchers in the industry, and then you just want to keep doing more. And I think that's true for everybody at Halter.
I will say, I tried to do an email intro for this kid to Andrew, and I got the guy's email wrong. And then he had to rush off to his flight, so I couldn't ask him for the correct one. So if he is listening to this or watching this, I guess just reach out to Craig direct or comment on this, and we can put you in touch. But on that, going from 200 to 400 staff, especially with this raise, growth is going to just be accelerated from now. Who do you need, what jobs for, and whereabouts?
Yeah, great question. I think we are hiring across most teams at the moment. So everything from, software engineers to mechanical to data scientists. We have a lot of very hard technical problems to solve. We've got a lot of products that we're building and improving that we ship every week, but then we've also got a lot of products that, we've been trying to work out how to do for the past year. And we still can't quite work out how to make it feasible, or the right on the edge of being technically feasible. So I think if you like solving hard problems, then, we want to talk to you. I think it is very cool that it's kind of anchored in the real world. Like Halter is, farming or agriculture is in the real world. And so I think that's like a very unique thing to us, and it creates these kind of quite hard dynamics. So yeah, anything engineering, product, R&D would be hiring at. And then on the other side of the business, so sales, marketing, support, onboarding, account managers, territory managers, all of those we're also kind of hiring across. So when you're growing at the rate Halter is, and it's mostly a function of trying to find great humans that want to work hard and motivated for the right reasons. And we've got plenty of work to do. We can kind of fit most, find a role to suit most people. It is just a function of trying to find the people in the first place.
Well, I have no doubt that some people will at the very least comment on this episode if they do want to come and join the mission. You are such an incredible seller of the story. And I just want to say thank you for giving me such incredible access. We are filming this interview before the raise is public. So your team not only gave me numerous interviews with you in person and now, but also, to the rest of your team around the world and to your customers. And it's just been such a joy to watch your journey. And I feel like as New Zealanders, we're very bad at saying that we're proud of other people, but we are so proud of you. You're such a weapon, and we are excited to see you take this from here and hit the gas.
Thank you. Yeah, it's we're stoked to share it with you, and I think we try to reflect in moments like these. We're not necessarily that good at it, or it's not super natural for us, but yes, they are, they kind of milestones along the journey. So we'll try and enjoy it for a little bit, and then kind of keep our heads down.
Well, let's take a moment, round of applause but we'll let you get back to it. You got stuff to do.
Classic. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Craig. Good to see you. See you soon. It's with Madison. Thanks for watching Markets with Madison. If you enjoyed this interview, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. I do all of the research for these episodes myself, so your support means a lot. I always love to hear your feedback and ideas, so please drop any thoughts in the comments below. Now go put your money to work.